It's Tuesday the 13th of January from the MEN newsroom. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News and these are today's headlines. The frightening decline. Business leaders say the country's at rock bottom and the outlook is bleak.
We've seen the difficulties with the businesses have been having actually selling goods. People in quite a lot of debt out there, difficult to access finance, people maxed out credit cards.
Also on the programme, Clean Up Your Act. Companies whose rubbish litters the streets are told to take action.
And the outlets are very good at cleaning outside the areas. What they don't do so much is further on from that. People often take their litter, they don't eat it outside, they take it away.
And the young bookworms at the age of 2 who are already regulars at their library.
We come to the library every Monday for 1:30 to 2:30 for story time. It's where the local children get together, they get to take out books from the library and they have a story time together, they do some crafts together.
Good afternoon. First today, a stark prediction for the economy. 1 in 10 of us could be unemployed within the next 2 years. Business leaders say they're surprised how bad things got at the end of last year and have called it a frightening deterioration. The report from the British Chamber of Commerce records the worst sales figures since records started in 1989. Earlier on, I spoke to Paul Foster from the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce and asked him what made December so bad.
I think it was a combination of factors, really. We've seen the difficulties with the businesses have been having actually selling goods. People in quite a lot of debt out there, difficult to access finance. People maxed out credit cards, which traditionally, you would spend on before Christmas. So a combination of factors have led to this difficulty.
So just how bad was it then, both for the individual and for businesses?
I think from an individual point of view, it made it quite tight. A lot of people were waiting for their December paychecks before they went shopping for their Christmas goods. And certainly for businesses, they were discounting goods well before they normally would have done so.
So what's needed to try to sort out these problems going forward in the weeks and months ahead?
Certainly from a business point of view, we need to see much better access to finance. We've seen the interest rate cuts over the last few months down to the lowest level ever now, but that is actually of very little use if the banks aren't lending the money. So we need to see government take action, and we expect to see some announcements later this week as to what they want to do regarding that.
And how much do you think that the government is listening to people like you with regards to what actually needs doing?
We know that they're listening to us because we've held meetings in the last few months with the Chancellor of the Exchequer, with David Cameron and a number of other senior politicians, so we know that they are listening. There's obviously a range of people that they will be listening to. It's our role to put forward the business case and to make sure that businesses get a good deal.
Well, house prices fell by a record 8.6% during the year until the end of November. New figures from the government show the average price is now £199,732. It's the first time the figures dipped below £200,000 since 2006. House sales are also down at a record low. They fell just over 10% in the 3 months to the end of December. There's been a major power cut in the centre of Manchester. Supplies were first lost at around 20 to 11 in the city centre, Bury and Salford. Also affected is our studio at Urbis, where much of the equipment that keeps us on air is based. They're working from backup power, which could mean this programme does go off air. Do bear with us if that happens. We'll aim to be back as soon as we can. Well, joining me now to talk a little bit more about the disruption is our reporter Ben Bland, who's just got back from the city centre. Ben, just tell us what sort of disruption is caused by this?
Well, we think about 36,000 homes and offices across central Manchester, Bury, Prestwich and Salford have been affected by this power cut. Just wandering around the city centre within the last hour, the lights were out on Dean's Gate, a lot of the shops were in darkness. The Arndale Centre, it was also completely dark. There were staff in one of the shops sitting on the sofas in the shop windows because they simply couldn't do anything. There were traders standing in shop doorways to stop people going in. We believe phone lines have been hit as well. And speaking to the fire service, they tell us that a lot of fire alarms were triggered by this power cut, and they've had to attend to some people being stuck in lifts as well. The big screens in Exchange Square went out, and escalators, of course, in the shopping centres also ground to a halt. We do understand, though, that Piccadilly railway station and the hospitals said they were unaffected by the cut, and also anyone in the city centre will have noticed that for much of it the wheel did manage to keep turning.
Any idea what's caused all this?
We've spoken to United Utilities. They say to us that they had a major failure at around 20 to 11 this morning, and that was to do with an overhead power line that feeds the central Manchester, Bury, Prestwich and Salford area. They've got engineers on site and they're working to get people rerouted and back onto the network, and police say that this wasn't terror related.
OK, Ben Bland, thank you very much for the update this lunchtime. A dental technician who was falsely accused of being charged with car finance fraud has been awarded £50,000 damages. 33-year-old Mohammed Ammar was awarded the cash in the High Court in London after he launched a case for libel and breach of privacy against a TV programme and the Radio Times. Manchester's council leader has spoken of how he was left with a black eye after getting carjacked. Sir Richard Leese was attacked by two men after stopping by the side of the road in Burnage to get something out of the car boot. The pair punched him before making off in his Mini Cooper. It was later found abandoned in Moston. Next, paper bags, drinks cups, plastic carriers, all the sort of things that have been found littering our roads and pavement. And, according to Keep Britain Tidy, Greggs the baker is the cause of more of that waste here in Manchester than anyone else. They've been surveying what rubbish is lying around on our streets. Kevin Duffy's been looking at the figures.
Greggs, McDonald's and Subway, three big names when it comes to fast food. And all three companies were just as prominent when the Keep Britain Tidy campaign analysed litter in the streets.
Well, for the first time ever, Keep Britain Tidy done a survey across the country of the most littered brands on our streets. And certainly in Manchester, Greggs came out top. They were the most littered brand on the streets of Manchester.
39% to be exact. Greggs were followed closely by McDonald's at 20% and coming a close third, Subway at 17%. But is it really that much of a problem? I went litter hunting with Louise Marsden.
McDonald's, I can't see any litter.
I mean, we know and we say that McDonald's do a great job cleaning up outside their premises. I know, and McDonald's do a lot to stop this problem, probably more than any other fast food outlet. But they do really only clean up outside their premises. I mean, if you go probably 400, 500 metres down the road, you may find that there's a different story.
There's not a great deal on the floor as we stand here.
Again, as I said, often the outlets are very good at cleaning outside the areas. What they don't do so much is further on from that. People often take their litter, they don't eat it outside, they take it away, and then they drop it outside offices, in the main centre, things like that.
How far do you want them to go and clean?
Well, it's not just a question of cleaning, but it's also about a question of putting bins. So one of the things that we're suggesting is perhaps sponsoring bins. So sponsoring bins 400 yards down the street where you'll find litter.
Maybe it's the customers, not the fast food outlets, who need to clean up their act.
You've got a piece of litter in your hand, there's no bins around. What would you do?
Lob it on the floor.
Say again.
Lob it on the floor.
If that young man's attitude is typical of the population as a whole, maybe Keep Britain Tidy needs to extend the reach of its campaign. Kevin Duffy for Channel M News.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, in response to the Keep Britain Tidy research, Greggs bosses say they remain focused on helping to resolve the issue of litter on the streets, while McDonald's say they send out 3 litter patrols per day and they're currently running a trial with a full-time litter picker in Manchester. Subway say they're working with councils on litter patrols and increasing the number of street bins, but they also make the point that customers have a responsibility to dispose of their litter responsibly. Well, we'd like your texts and emails on this subject as well. It's the subject of the Channel M news poll. We want to know, who do you think should be responsible for sorting this problem out? Is it the shops that sell the food? Is it the council that should clear it up? Or do we all have a responsibility to help keep the streets cleaner? Text me your view to 88821. Start your message with the word news. That number again, 88821. You can also email newsdesk@channelm.co.uk. We'll try to get through some of your thoughts later on. 8 people have been arrested over the raid that killed the son of a sub-postmaster in Worcestershire. Craig Hodson Walker was shot dead in the robbery on Friday morning and his father was shot in the leg. 4 people are being held on suspicion of murder and attempted murder and 4 more on suspicion of assisting an offender. The 3 women and 5 men were picked up in the South Birmingham area. The girlfriend of the youngest Brit to conquer Everest has spoken about the final message she got from him before he fell to his death. Rob Gauntlet texted Lucinda Hutchins, who's studying here in Manchester, after she told him not to push himself too hard. He said, "See you soon, I love you." He died at the weekend in the Chamonix region along with his friend James Atkinson. Arrangements are being made to fly their bodies back home. Protesters who want to stop a third runway getting built at Heathrow have bought land in the village of Sipson that would need to be concreted over. Hundreds of homes will be lost there if the area is bulldozed to make way for the expansion, which could be approved later this week. The piece they bought is around the size of a football pitch. Here in Manchester, anti-airport protesters have also gathered. Around 30 turned up at the city's airport to demonstrate against the growing number of domestic flights taking off from there. But rather than raucous chanting, this was a much more peaceful demonstration.
We're trying to raise awareness, we're trying to speak to the government mainly, who are the ones who are going to be approving or not approving airport expansion. So I think it's a big call out to them. It's also to raise awareness just within the general public, just within the media, of everyone, of the bad effects of flying and the effects on climate change.
Well, the London to Manchester route takes a lot of criticism, but a lot of people that fly out of Manchester are connecting to other flights at Heathrow. Over 60% of passengers, they're transferring onto other flights, connecting into the global marketplace. So we take Manchester to the world and we bring the world to Manchester.
It's never a good thing when there's more police than protesters here, so it just makes us feel quite alienated because we're here quite peacefully and we can't even talk to any of the passengers or anything, and that's what one of the main targets was for today, to talk to people. So.
We obviously have a working airport and we want to make sure that that airport is continuing to operate. So obviously we're trying to cater to the needs of the protesters, but at the same time we need to maintain the operation of our airport.
Russia has turned the gas back on after a 2-week dispute with Ukraine over an unpaid bill. A dozen EU countries were left without supplies. It'll take around 36 hours for the pipeline service to get back to normal. 2 children from here in Manchester could be the city's youngest bookworms. Despite being only 2 years old, Jake Homer and Annie Zhao have already notched up 40 visits each to the Central Library.
What the dogs say? Mac, Mac, Mac. Go for a boy. We come to the library every Monday for 1:30 to 2:30 for story time. It's where all the local children get together. They get to take out books from the library and they have story time together, they do some crafts together and just get used to sitting around reading books in a group.
Bookstart is a national programme and Manchester Libraries has taken it on board as early as possible, and it's been running since 1992 as a pack. What our aim is to basically give every child their right to enjoy books from as early an age as possible, and every child has the right to enjoy books as early as possible from day one.
Time now for a check on the lunchtime sports headlines with those. Here's Sam Goodman.
Thank you, James. Well, let's begin by congratulating Cristiano Ronaldo for winning yet another award. He was named FIFA World Player of the Year and was presented with his award by football legend Pelé at an awards dinner in Zurich last night. Ronaldo is the first Premier League player ever to win the prestigious award. In other football news from this morning, a toe injury has ruled out Manchester City midfielder Dima Haman for up to 3 months. In the rearranged League One fixture from last night, Oldham beat Hartlepool 2-0. Lee Hughes scored his 14th goal of the season. Dean Windass was handed his debut and Dean Smalley scored the second for Oldham, who are now 10 games unbeaten and sit 5th in the league table. Tonight, in another rearranged fixture from the weekend because of the mass postponements, sees Stockport travel to Swindon in League One. Robbie Threlfall and Dave Mooney are in line for their debuts, but the main focus lies away from Edgeley Park as Managing Director Mark Maguire has denied the club are on the verge of administration. In League Two transfers, Macclesfield striker Nick Blackman has joined Blackburn Rovers on a 2.5-year deal after impressing Rovers boss Sam Allardyce during a training session with the club earlier in the season. On to rugby, and the Salford City Reds are currently on a training camp in Florida, but before they left, head coach Sean McRae told us there'll be no room for favouritism when he comes to pick his starting lineup in next season's Super League.
We've got an age range from like 33 down to 18, so I kind of treat everybody the same. It doesn't matter about age or experience, and some people need a little more help than others, and some people you need to be a little more disciplined with than others, and people respond differently to pressure. And as a coach, I really need to understand each individual player. But I wouldn't single any one person out. I think everybody's got an opportunity to perform. Everyone's got an opportunity to display their talent and their ability. And that's part of my job and my staff's job is to try to enhance that and to try to bring that out of the athletes. But look, people that have been here before understand the culture of the club. People that haven't been here, they have to quickly break out of a culture where they've previously been and into a new one. And I've seen no sign whatsoever that that's not occurring. You know, I'm really happy with the way guys are preparing and they're training, and you know, there's a bonding that's there, and the guys are really gelling and working hard together. And I can't ask any more than that. And all those things should take place before we start playing.
In Speedway, Bellevue Aces have made another signing. This time it's Glasgow's talented Aussie youngster Josh Juraszczynek. Team boss Chris Morton will use him as a cover rider, and he'll play as the Aces' number 8. Finally, the oldest professional sporting club in the region, the Rochdale Hornets, have gone into administration. This now means any existing debt is cleared, allowing the formation of a new club, maybe with some involvement from Rochdale Football Club. Well, that's all from me for now. Join me again later this evening. We'll hear from Wigan boss Steve Bruce and Sir Alex ahead of the clash at Old Trafford tomorrow.
Thank you very much. More sport with Andy Crane then from 5 o'clock tonight. Coming up between now and 1 o'clock, more on our top story and the report describing the country's economy as being at rock bottom. And also, we'll be meeting the artist who's managed to combine his love for painting with a love for sport.
Well, I've been a mad rugby league fan since I was the age of 8. I've never hardly missed any matches at Warrington all over my years. And I just wanted to do, with regards to my paintings, is make it like an historical record of all the old grounds.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We're on air from the city centre, where large parts of the area are without electricity this lunchtime. A major cut is affecting supplies here in the city centre and in Bury and Salford. Also affected is our studio at Urbis, which means we're working here from backup power. If this programme does go off air, do bear with us. We'll try to be back with you as soon as we can. Don't forget, you can always find our headlines online as well at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, the row over a piece of parkland here in Greater Manchester, with campaigners worried it could soon become a golf driving range, leaving them nowhere to go. And also pictures of Concorde being loaded into its new home at Manchester Airport. That's at channelm.co.uk. Now back to our top story, and business leaders are demanding radical measures from the government after the country suffered a frightening deterioration at the end of last year. The British Chamber of Commerce says manufacturing and service industries recorded their worst figures since records started in 1989. The report says they were surprised by how severe the downturn was. Earlier on, I spoke to Paul Foster from the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce and asked him what made December so bad.
I think it was a combination of factors, really. I mean, we've seen the difficulties with that businesses have been having actually selling goods. People in quite a lot of debt out there, difficult to access finance. People maxed out credit cards, which traditionally, you know, you would spend on before Christmas. So a combination of factors have led to this difficulty.
So just how bad was it then, both for the individual and for businesses?
I think from an individual point of view, it made it quite tight. A lot of people were waiting for their December paychecks before they went shopping for their Christmas goods. And certainly for businesses, you know, they were discounting goods well before they normally would have done so.
So what's needed to try to sort out these problems going forward in the weeks and months ahead?
Certainly from a business point of view, we need to see much better access to finance. We've seen the interest rate cuts over the last few months down to the lowest level ever now, but that is actually of very little use if the banks aren't lending the money. So we need to see government take action, and we expect to see some announcements later this week as to what they want to do regarding that.
And how much do you think that the government is listening to people like you with regards to what actually needs doing?
We know that they're listening to us because we've held meetings in the last few months with the Chancellor of the Exchequer, with David Cameron and a number of other senior politicians, so we know that they are listening. There's obviously a range of people that they will be listening to. It's our role to put forward the business case and to make sure that businesses get a good deal.
Israeli planes have attacked more than 60 targets in Gaza. The assault there against Hamas is now into its 18th day. The air assault came as Israeli troops advanced into the southern and eastern suburbs of Gaza City. £10,000 in extra payments is to be offered to good teachers to recruit them and keep them to work in some of the toughest schools. It's part of a plan to help disadvantaged pupils achieve more. The so-called golden handcuffs deal will be offered to about 6,000 staff in 500 of the most challenging secondaries. The 1911 census has been posted online for the first time. People researching their family history can now log on and even see their ancestors' handwriting on the forms. They detail the lives of 36 million people in England and Wales. Among some of the most famous are the then Prime Minister Herbert Asquith and distant relatives of David Beckham and Amy Winehouse. An artist from here in Greater Manchester has managed to combine his love of painting with his love of sport. Maurice Riley's latest pictures feature some of his favourite rugby grounds. He's been giving us a look.
I've been a mad rugby league fan since I was the age of 8. I've never missed hardly missed any matches at Warrington all over my years, and I just wanted to do, with regards to my paintings, is make it like an historical record of all the old grounds. I just want to paint all my life. I just love it. I love teaching it. I love doing it. It's just all I want to do.
The paintings that we've got here, the Lowry prints, they belong to the guy that owned the bistro before I did. So he left them with me and kind of said, when I want them back, will you replace them with something else? And we've tried to replace them with different things, and it doesn't really fit. Obviously, I've known Maurice for a long time. I like his quirky angles that he does his paintings from, attention to detail. So I asked him to do something and see what he could come up with. People notice as soon as they walk in, they're like, oh wow, what's that, and so they've been asking a lot of questions about it. We're going to do some prints for people that they can buy, and hopefully then that will set off Maurice's career too.
It's been quite a grey morning across much of Greater Manchester. Let's take a look at the forecast for the rest of the week now. Here's Michelle Eagleton.
Unfortunately, the weather's not been that great across Greater Manchester this morning, and it's set to continue this afternoon, I'm afraid. We are going to see top temperatures of between 7 and 8, so a lot cooler than it has been the past couple of days, and really not the kind of weather we were hoping for. Now, I can take you through the morning into the afternoon, and you'll see that we have had some stormy weather conditions, a bit of thunder and lightning, and quite a few showers as we've gone from 9 until about midday. Now, this afternoon, slightly different because we are going to see a little bit of sunshine creeping in, say about 1 to about 3 o'clock. But unfortunately, as we get towards tea time, that heavy cloud is on its way back, and you are going to need your umbrella. So don't forget to take an umbrella with you if you are heading out and about this evening, because you are really going to need it. We are going to see that rain continuing into overnight, but the next couple of days, not too bad, because Wednesday we are seeing a bit of sunshine. Thursday, unfortunately, the rain's coming back. Mixed bag for Friday, and then Saturday, more rain is expected.
You're watching Channel M's Lunchtime News. Our main headlines this afternoon. Large parts of Manchester city centre are without electricity. A major power cut happened at about 20 to 11 this morning. Alarm bells started sounding in some shops as the circuit went down. Traffic lights also stopped working. Engineers are now trying to fix the fault that's affected more than 36,000 people. Business leaders are demanding radical measures from the government after the country suffered a frightening deterioration at the end of last year. The British Chamber of Commerce says manufacturing and service industries recorded their worst figures since 1989. That's all from today's Lunchtime News. We'll have more with Andy Crane from 5, but from me and the rest of the team, bye-bye for now.